Welcome to the third video in this series on the building of Roodeschool. As I promised in my previous video, this one would dive into my build of the actual station building. The drawing of the building is behind me. Now, it was a standard design by the then Groninger Lokaal Spoorweg, which liberally translated sounds like the Groninger Local Railways. When the lines were constructed and opened, they operated the lines in the north of the Netherlands. Somewhere in the 1930s, they merged with what became the Dutch Nederlandse Spoorweg into the Dutch National Railways, and it became one building. But so this is as we say, a GLS design, Groninger Lokaal Spoorweg, and it's here at the top corner there. You can see Groninger Lokaal Spoorweg Maatschappij, which means company. Anyway, that's my lesson in Dutch done for today. So it was a standard design which was built in a couple of different places along the line. One of which was in the Roodeschool. The drawing as depicted behind me is actually the next station along the line, or one of the next ones, and it's called Auhagen. And they were all slightly different from each other, and it was mainly positioning of the doors in the building and the arrangement of the windows, but the actual width was exactly the same. So while an architectural drawing like this is great to get to transfer the dimensions over for your model, you do, if possible, need to refer to existing pictures of the building, particularly if the building no longer exists, like in my case, or if you can go to the building if it still exists and take some pictures yourself, take some measurements yourself. That's obviously the best way if you want to be as accurate as possible. I had to rely on several pictures I found in archives and on websites and all over the internet, a few of which I've shared and will be sharing along the line. So that's obviously a couple of pointers that should you ever want to dive into this kind of thing yourself, to be aware of. Don't just blatantly think that the drawing is correct. Look into the history of what you're trying to build and see if there's any deviations from the plan. And even if there's only one building, the drawing might be one thing, but during the build things might have changed. And sometimes a building gets alterations due to renovations in later years. There's other things visible that wouldn't have been in its original form, so depending a bit on how accurate you want to be and what time frame you want to build things in, that's obviously important for accuracy. So, as I already said in my introduction, my version of this building is accurate for Roodeschool, but not in the time frame I'm placing it in. My layout is built in depicts the early 1980s, and the building was demolished in 1973. So some of the details on the building wouldn't have been there, but it places it as if it was there. So it's sort of semi-freelance. Anyway, let's have a look at the construction. So here's a picture of the building, one of the oldest pictures I could find of it, but shows quite well the arrangement of the doors. And here it is in somewhat later years from the platform side. So pictures like this are very important to get details. Look at here, there's actually a door removed. You can see the lighter bit of the wall at the bottom. And here it is again from the platform side. So reference to pictures like this are highly important to get it right. So again, I constructed the building of styrene sheets, taking the dimensions of the drawing and transfer them over onto the plastic, and then start cutting them out with a scalpel. Occasionally test fitting along the way, and then continue to cut all the walls from the basic sheets. And then the second layer goes on, which are the stones. I make those from sheets of styrene made by Slater. I build them up in layers. As you can see here, there's these white lines, which were a decorative element on the design of the building. You also note arches. In those there were other bricks positioned, and that is relatively easy to model, shown on the photo here. If you cut them out in strips of styrene and then cut them with a sharp scalpel, they automatically start curving a little bit, and cut them to the right length, and then you position them in place and glue them down. While the glue is still wet, you can maneuver them around, and that will then position them nicely in place. The next step then is to sand the walls, making sure that they have a nice tight fit in the corners. For that I use a little bit of an aluminium profile as visible here, and I move it back and forward on a sheet of sandpaper, so that I'm starting to get a 45-degree angle on the corner of the walls, so that they get a closer fit. You can also do that with kits, of course, that you buy that aren't completely straight, or you have a small gap due to the way it's been molded. This technique will help it, and occasionally test fitting here. As you can see, not perfect here, but we're working on it as construction is going on. Some helper tools like a 1, 2, 3 block on the inside of the wall, and a few magnetic clamps I found on eBay to help you construct a building and hold things in place when you're gluing things or test fitting. Quite useful. Then we get to the windows. Now, for the windows I found a good tip or construction method on another YouTube channel called Chanwell. This is about the build of an N-scale layout, and buildings are all constructed out of cardboard. And what he does is to print the windows N-scale on label paper, cut them out and glue that onto transparent plastic, which is obviously your glass, and that gives you this effect. I thought it was quite effective and nice and thin, so I repeated that for my windows, and I thought it was also in HO scale quite convincing. So that's how I proceeded for my windows. Obviously then we get to the doors after that. Now the doors I made with styrene again. First obviously made sure all the openings were there, and on Roodeschool 4 doors were next to each other, which were the various waiting rooms. Also office entrance and that sort of thing. So as I said, I make them from styrene, frames out of styrene, cut them out in a usual method and glue them into the openings. 2 different designs on each side of the building. Then obviously give them some depth with styrene strips cut on a chopper, and I make them nice and thick, and thick enough, should I say. Thresholds, of course, also from bits of styrene. Window sills, same way, and then the actual doors. For two different types, 2 for the front of the building and 4 for the platform side. And then I went on to the roof. First some roof girders, profiles to make things strong, and from Auhagen I used the roof sheets. Now Auhagen is a German manufacturer, but they make roof tiles in the right design. I've struggled a little bit to find them in the UK, as I find most buildings here have slate roofs. Anyway, I painted them in a sort of grey-black color, depicting a sort of glazing that I saw quite often in my youth, and I think it's the correct color from what I've seen in pictures. Weathering will obviously help tone that down to the right shades. So then it was time to add details like the wind verges at the end of the roofs. Also again cut out of styrene, and obviously guttering as well along the edges to really finish the building off. I made guttering support from styrene again, scratch build them to hold the guttering up, and this is then the end result, looking quite good. Then it was time for signage and station posters, billboards, etc. Most of that I designed from scratch or took pictures from websites on the internet showing old commercial posters and things like that, scaled them down, glue them on top of some sheet styrene and put them on the side of the building, really to place it. And by that I mean place it in the right time frame. Then it was platform time. Now first I did a bit of an experiment on a small sheet, cutting tile patterns onto a sheet styrene and then applied various washes of grey and to see how that came about. I was quite happy with that result, so I decided to do that for the main platform. It was really tedious, a lot of drawing and cutting, but I got there in the end. But I felt I had to do it because I couldn't find any commercial material that was of the same size as I needed. Platform edges were constructed in the same way, styrene sheets, and then after that I washed everything in the same way, and this is painted it, and this is the end result of that. Obviously check it a little bit with a few models to see if the height was correct, and I thought the height was pretty convincing. I made it 12 millimeters, and that in HO scale is quite accurate. Overall the end result is quite convincing, but it was tedious, so if you want to keep your sanity, I don't recommend it. So as I said, building the platform was tedious, a lot of scribing on styrene. If you want to keep your sanity, don't do it too quickly, but if, like in my case, you have no choice or you just want to make something custom, then that is obviously a way to go. Obviously there's more modern methods around nowadays. Some people have access to or even own a laser cutter, styrene cutting machine. If you can do it on that and you're handy with a computer to make a good design in a 3D modeling program, that'd be another option for you. I don't have access to that sort of tooling, and I actually like to work with my hands and do it myself, the old-fashioned way. So each to their own. Model railroading is very diverse, so find the method that works for you. Anyway, so much for this video. If you enjoyed it, again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good one.